All right. Good morning, everyone. Are we all set? All right. So first of all, I want to thank everyone who's here this morning, particularly the ICSA member and the Board of Trustees for allowing me this opportunity to come here and speak to everyone this morning. I'm pretty nervous and excited at the same time. So just hang in there with me. For a little bit about me, during the day, I actually raise money for the College of Engineering and Computer Science at Florida Atlantic University. So someone was talking earlier about giving money, people give money to people. Well, I'm one of those guys, great personality, go out and raise a lot of money. By night, I'm a scholar, academic. I am fourth year PhD or doctoral candidate in the College of Education. I'm also a home scholar for filling a dissertation. So what you'll see today is basically a part of my dissertation, okay? But I wanna note that I have yet to defend my proposal, okay? So what you're gonna see is some insider information. So this is really some good stuff. I'm pretty excited about it, okay? So the title, as you can see, I always struggle with this word, so I'm gonna slow down. Take a deep breath and get this word right, okay? So my title is, it's a phenomenological exploration of Jehovah's Witnesses, right? College students' experiences with secular higher education. And that is a mouthful. Initially, my research wanted to focus on just religious minority groups in general. But after speaking with some scholars, they said, well, why don't you just narrow it down a bit? So I chose Jehovah's Witnesses. And the reason I chose them is really and truly when you think about their publications, and we'll get into that later on, and what they talk about, they don't encourage higher education. So I thought, this would be a good part to kind of get into, okay? So this is an overview of what you will get today. As you can see, it starts with definition of terms and go all the way to questions and discussions. Okay. So like all religions, Jehovah's Witnesses have specific language, and I thought this was very essential to kind of share with you some definition of key terms, so that way you sort of understand where I'm coming from. So Bowman did a really nice job in articulating what Jehovah's Witnesses is. So I used his definition, and I really liked it. The other one is the Watchtower Society, which is really the main legal entity used by the Jehovah's Witnesses religious faith. Now, the next one is the New World Translation, which the Jehovah's Witnesses, a lot of people don't know, they have their specific own Bible. So this Bible was actually not written, but translated by 5 individuals, 5 leaders of the organization. And Chrysitis, Franz, and Ron Rhodes, they named the 5 guys in their text. But what is interesting about these 5 guys, not one of them actually graduated from college. Okay, so when you take original context, a Bible is usually anywhere from 50 to 100 scholars to give you some context, and it's written back and forth and so on and so forth. Okay, the Awake and the Watchtower, these are quarterly magazines and monthly journals that are published by the Watchtower, and they insist that you use that as educational resources. Okay, a little bit about Jehovah's Witnesses in higher education. Let's give some context so that there's some folks in here that may understand Jehovah's Witnesses, and there's others in the room that may not, okay? So they are a religious organization that started in the late 1870 in Allegheny, Pennsylvania by a guy by the name of Charles Taze Russell. Russell was known for selling miracle wheat, infidelity. So there was always that history behind him, okay, like a checkered past, okay? So in the past, it was always one leader that sort of dominated the religion. But today, they're managed by a governing body, which is anywhere between 8 and 12 leader. These men, they dictate the rules and the regulations of the organization. As I just stated, they are a Christian religious denomination. Their belief systems are based on their Bible, which I just talked about, which is the New World Translation Bible, okay? Their Awake and Watchtower magazines, which I mentioned earlier, are considered the mouthpiece that comes directly from God. And that's key to know. So some of the do's and don'ts, they do not believe in the Trinity, okay, which is the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, okay, as one entity. They believe that Jesus is the Son of God and the Archangel Michael are the same, okay? They also believe that their religion is the truth and that no other religion, that all other religions are false, okay? A couple key doctrines. I mean, you guys all seen them. They dress really nicely. They're on the street corners. They do a lot of door-to-door preaching. They'll knock at your house. They don't believe in holidays. There's no political affiliation whatsoever. They don't salute the flag. They don't believe in blood transfusion. And I don't think any one of you guys here drink or eat blood, because I know I don't, but that's something that they don't believe in as well, okay? They have something which is very interesting that I learned quite a bit about in doing this research is shunning. It's called shunning, disfellowship, ostracization, isolation, keep you away from your family. And so it's very interesting. But most importantly for me in this research, what I looked at is that they discourage higher education, right? And that's as evident by the quote that you can see on the screen there, that higher education, right, is in a state of crises in many countries. And that's from 1971. But I can say, even in the 80s, they started to loosen the stance on that. They actually preferred, I want to say trade school. So you'll see more, you can go to trade school. College is bad, but trade school is not as bad. Okay. In the lieu of time, I do have some time. So I want to read this entire quote by Bonnie Zeman, which is very interesting. So just to give you some context on who Bonnie is actually. So she's a 30-year Jehovah's Witnesses member. Okay. She was doing door-to-door services at the age of 9. She was baptized at the age of 11, married at the age of 19, and then divorced at the age of 30. She's no longer a Jehovah's Witnesses. But in her memoir, right, Fading Out of the Jehovah's Witnesses Cult, here's what she says, and it's a powerful quote, and so I want to read the whole quote, and I'm doing good on time here, so just bear with me, okay? So there is then absolutely no need for a young witness to think about furthering their education at university. We were told there are so many bad influences in a university, my Lou, that could pull us away from the truth. The government body was afraid that you might learn something that could liberate your mind, and worst of all, you might acquire some critical thinking skills that could help you break their spell of control. The governing body maintains control over their adherents by keeping them from gaining any sense of personal competency or power via an education, satisfying career, or the attainment of professional and financial success. So you can see they're really stifled. Okay, so Jehovah's Witnesses, like all other college students, face challenges. There's challenges that we all encounter, okay? So, and I won't go through each and every one of them, kind of you can see them, but I'll touch on maybe one or two of them, okay? So let's look at time constraints and commitments, okay? So Jehovah's Witness students are encouraged by the Watchtower to attend religious meetings, okay? Engage in personal study of the Awake and Watchtower literature, okay? They're encouraged to participate, right, in evangelicalistical activities and their theoretic school. They have a school where this is where you get all your education from that you need to go to. And they maintain a regular schedule of prayer and worshiping, okay? So balancing these religious commitments with the demands of college coursework, assignments, and extracurricular activities can be extremely challenging, as you can see, okay? Let's touch up on another one, conflict in beliefs, right? So the Watchtower Society, right, they believe that higher education may expose Jehovah's Witnesses students to ideas that contradict their religious beliefs, leading to cognitive dissonance and make it difficult for them to reconcile their faith with what they are learning in the college environment, okay? And another one that's kind of essential, which I thought was very interesting here, was mental health, right? Which and this study is sort of dated by Prescott back in the early 1949 actually, and his study discovered that the Jehovah's Witnesses, they're sort of like vultures. They just come and attack the weak. So if people are you're going through something very traumatic, that's when the Jehovah's Witness kind of swoop skin and get you. Okay. So it's okay. So with all academic research, there's always a research problem that we look at. Okay, and what we find out with the Jehovah's Witnesses is that the college students, they actually receive no support or limited support from your family. Your family may say, why would you go to college? Why would you do that? You've got everything here in the Jehovah's Witnesses, so you should not do that, okay? The organization itself is certainly not helping them, as evident by what I said earlier, okay? We know that the Watchtower Society journals and pamphlets, they discourage higher education, okay? And as evident by the quote there, and I don't have my glasses on, so I can't read it because I didn't have it written in my notes, so I can't read it. But you guys can see it, what they say. I mean, that's just a crazy quote. Job market reveal that so-called higher education is not necessarily the best avenue to a job. 4 out of 5 jobs do not require higher education. And furthermore, a degree may be more of a handicap than a help. I don't know about you guys, but I don't agree with that statement. And interestingly enough, according to Pew Research data and Census Bureau, there's only about 12% of Jehovah's Witnesses that have college degrees, okay? And that compared to 36% of the general population, just to give you some idea. And we all know that Jehovah's Witnesses are not recruited. They're not coming to the Kingdom Hall. Universities are not recruiting Jehovah's Witnesses, or for any Christian congregation for that matter, okay? And last but not least, there's negative stereotypes towards Jehovah's Witnesses. You all get the knock at the door. Oh, mommy said I'm not home. No one wants to come in and we're not here. So let's hide from them, So all academics have, statement of purposes, and the statement for my purpose here is the purpose of this phenomenological study is to explore how Jehovah's Witnesses college students make meaning of their academic, their social and spiritual engagement experiences with secular higher education, and that's pretty big. Okay, these are the research questions. So within any academic paper, the framework, of this study, where the intent is to reveal basically more fully the meaning of the phenomenon of being a Jehovah's Witnesses student in college. These are the questions that's going to really drive home my study. And the theme, as you can see in the questions, are the academic, the social, the spiritual engagement in terms of how you align them. It's not one or the other. It's basically you got to pull these together. Okay, now I'll give it a minute because I want people to read them. I don't want to read them. Okay, all academic studies, their significance, and certainly what I've discovered so far is that there's a void in the literature, when it comes to Jehovah's Witnesses and higher education. And I think, it's interesting, but I think, Jehovah's Witnesses, there's this ethical dilemma, there's a typo on that screen. I just saw it. It's supposed to be choose, CHOOSE, so I apologize for that. I think the latest slide that I sent in had it corrected. But, they have this attitude, it's God or education. It can't be both. And so, my research is really trying to untangle, you can do both. So that's what I really want to look at. And really, we should find, ways to determine specific strategic moves to assist this underrepresented groups, in terms of, how do we get from access, to retention so that they can stay in college? Because that's ultimately that's what we want. And really my ultimate goal is to just expand upon the literature and fill a meaningful gap in the current literature field. My hope and strategies is to assist Jehovah's Witness students, with the hope and opportunity to further themselves. All right, so this is, I think, wait a minute. Okay, wait a minute. This is, okay, so, all right, I think the slides are out of order. Okay, so this is the theoretical framework that I chose for my study, because I believe that it's the appropriate theoretical framework that's going to guide this study. And this is a Marcia Baxter Magolda's a theory of self-authorship. Okay, and you can see self-authorship is characterized by internally generating and coordinating one's beliefs, values, and internal loyalties rather than depending on external values, beliefs, and interpersonal loyalties. Okay, this is what is known as a literature review map. And this is pretty much, I don't know if it's probably not that clear to some of you guys, but it's a visual summary of my research that has been conducted and it's broken down into several buckets, as you can see. So the first bucket, what you'll have on the left-hand side here, is religion in higher education. The next, you will have the Watchtower literature. And I was strategic in breaking that out in, self-produced literature and then former Jehovah's Witnesses literature, because I think it's essential that we keep track of that. Because usually what you'll have, former members, some people may say it's unbiased literature because they may have an agenda against the organization. So I just want to make it clear that I looked at both areas. Then the middle third one over is the Jehovah's Witness student experience in higher education with self-authorship, and self-authorship is the last one, which again is a theoretical framework. Okay, the highlight there, I highlighted George Chrysaitis, because he really does a really nice job. He's probably the godfather of Jehovah's Witnesses studying their work. And he's been doing it for about 30 years, really unbiased. I really like his stuff. So and it's interesting to note in this column, the Jehovah's Witnesses column, I want to point out some of the former members are actually scholars, like Ferrulli, Johnson, and Penton. Those guys were actually scholars, and their voices were very well respected while they were Jehovah's Witnesses, but now their voices are not respected because they're outside of the organization. Okay. So, all right, this is the research design and proposed methodology. I'm going to talk about these real quick. Again, the slides are out of whack. I'm surprised they're not what I have here in my stuff. It's a qualitative phenomenological approach is what I'm using. Okay, the sample criteria. I've got about 2 minutes because I want to open up for questions. So the sample criteria here is 18 years old and older. Obviously, I want adults. The second one, B, is current or former students that's within a 10-year gap. So if you've been out of college for 10 years or less, you would be a participant. And I would prefer if you were enrolled as a part-time or even full-time college student at an accredited college or university within the United States. So I'm looking for folks because my research focuses on United States, not outside. Okay, and obviously preferred if you were a member of the Watchtower Society while you were enrolled in college. The participants, I'm looking at, the goal is anywhere between 5 to 8, but boy, after coming to this conference, I'm going to have way more than that. Thank you. So that will be kind of neat. And this is, Polkinghorne, he says for this types of study, anywhere between 5 and 25 is a good number, but I'm probably looking for about 5. The sample technique will be purposeful and snowballing, given the fact that Jehovah's Witnesses is a closed, they're sort of inside, outside, us against them mentality. So snowball is really going to help me. The data collection, I'll obviously use a, consent form, in-depth semi-structured interviews. Everyone will have alias, pseudonym, so that we don't know, who they are because it's very dicey here. Interviews will consist of between 30 and 45 minutes. And this is, I'm choosing this approach. There's a guy named Irvin Seidman. He does a three meetings approach. And I'm going by this approach, and I will probably modify it and make it my own. Oops, I'm so sorry about that. And I'm going to modify it and make it my own, because how the Jehovah's Witnesses conduct, they come after you again and again. So I think this approach will be effective to them. Obviously, there will the data analysis, there will be Zoom semi-structures interviews that will be recorded verbatim, will be analyzed to generate codes, categories, and themes. There'll be a 2-cycle of coding. The first phase will be initial, and the second phase, it will be either be in vivo or pattern, just not sure yet because the research questions may change somewhat, so it all depends. Okay. I'm going to go back to that. Okay, limitations. Okay, all studies, is not generalizable to my participants or not to all, Jehovah's Witnesses. Okay, I want to talk about, Jehovah's Witnesses is a fearful environment, so the participants will be, to talk to me, it may be taboo. They risk quite a bit, so I have to be very careful. Okay. And the Pursudium and Alias I talked about earlier, and I'll do some self-reflection through journaling to sort of remove my personal biases and how I feel about Jehovah's Witnesses. Okay. There is delimitations from all studies, and this is pretty much the same thing like the criteria, so I won't go into that again. But then let me see if I can go back to the role of the researcher, because this is independent. So this is kind of important right here. And this, I think there's one more slide after this, and this is it. So research needs to be approached with an open and objective mindset, right? To gather accurate, trustworthy, and reliable data. And that's something I want to make it very clear that is my onset. That's what I'm focusing on, okay? So my personal beliefs, assumptions, and biases may influence this research to an extent. I am the sole researcher and data collector for this study. I am not a Jehovah's Witnesses, never have been, and don't intend to be one. So I want to make that clear. I have been associated with higher education for the past 20 years at both public and private universities, so I have some experience there. And I do have family members who are, Jehovah's Witnesses. Some are college educated, some are not, okay? But most importantly, and this is the shocker, okay? For over a decade, and some of you met her last night, I've been married to a Jehovah's Witnesses, okay? So in essence, I want to thank my wife for allowing me the opportunity to go for a degree. And I think that's very important. And so I think having a wife that is currently, she's been raised as a Jehovah's Witnesses, educated as a Jehovah's Witnesses. She's a college educator, okay? I think it can prove valuable insights and perspectives, as in terms of to enhance this study. So I'm looking to lean on her quite a bit. I thought she was going to be here, but she's not here. She's like, taboo, Jehovah's Witnesses are going to talk about us. So, and finally, I do have nieces and nephews who are Jehovah's Witnesses, and my hope is that this research will be beneficial to them if and when they decide to attend higher education. And I think that might be it. So these are some early findings in my study. As you'll see, I'm so, and I got to admit, coming here and meeting, the BITE model author. I mean, this has just been so great reading his dissertation. So this is just wonderful. I want to thank him for that. So with that, I am done. I'm not going to get too in the weeds with this, but just note that I am still, very early in my research. And so I welcome comments, questions, critiques. I'm completely open for that. Thank you.